we have the mazel and the interesting hashgoche, 2 minutes just, that we have the SHIUR on a very special day, on the day of Yud Aleph
Rochel Imeinu.
which is Rochel Imeinu. And I can't not speak a few minutes of Rochel Imeinu, like I can't just get to the recording and not speak, personal a little bit with everybody of yours. It's hard enough that we don't see each other. Now, some of you I do see at other shiurim and everything, but there is such a link between Rochel Imeinu and the date, Cheshvan, the months that were on Cheshvan, that is fascinating. First of all, does anybody have something to say? We are meanwhile 3, but I hope we'll be more soon. Does anybody have something that she heard or something that she felt, or if she went to Rochel Imeinu's kever or whatever, something about Rochel Imeinu? Let's make it a little bit more together. Anybody has something that she heard, that she feels, that she once heard about Rochel Imeinu? With the mama, even though she's not the one that had the most amount of children, but she's called Mama Rachel, etc. And I'm sure all of you got phone calls about the koilelim of Rochel Imeinu and the schusim of our Rochel Imeinu, etc. Anybody wants to say something that you heard, that you feel, that you read, that anything? Brina as well. I hope we'll be more in that. If not, doesn't matter.
I got a beautiful video of a choir from the Shiva or Uvain in Monsey, New York, where they are talking about how you can, Mama Rachel, cry for us, but we're not supposed to cry. And it's a beautiful video. If you give me, I can send it out after the SHIUR. It's just so moving, these boys singing.
Okay, so we'll give you our things, and I think it's very nice that you should send it. Very, very nice. Okay, I always have a problem with, on one hand, the singing process, and on the other hand, the fact that we're talking about Yahrzeit. So I never know how to eat it, but I'm sure that music is something that moves us very, very much. David HaMelech expresses it in many ways. So Mistoma, it's good. Anyway, something else. Anybody?
I heard about someone who was not religious, and she wanted a child very, very badly, but it was against her principles to go to Kever Rachel.
Why?
So when she decided at some point, she got herself dressed up as a Haredi. She went to Kever Rachel, and she cried like she never cried in her life. She wanted a child. And that year, a child was born. She had a son.
So you're saying that, so Brian, beautiful, you're saying that it's a fantastic schooler, that Rochel Imeinu, who suffered the same thing. I was once at a Shiva visit where a woman dressed up like a millionaire with a Rolex watch and with all kinds of things. Thank you, David. It's I don't know what it does, but it adds. So and she took the hand of a young widow who had a lot of children, and she says, I understand you so much, so well. And it was horrible, because keep quiet. Don't say, I understand you so well. She came with the heels 5 inches each. I don't mind. Go to a chasana like that, but take the hand and say, I understand you so well. And the same day it was at a convention, and I had gone to see her, and Rav Pesach Kron was giving out 20 or 15 chukim when you go to a Shiva visit, what yes to do and what not to do. It was very, very interesting. And one of the things that he said was that somebody who went through the same thing has a lot of koach of nechome. So Rochel Imeinu who didn't have children for so many years and suffered so much from her sacrifice and from everything. So she's the one that has a sgula for children. It's nice. But why would this woman have a principle not to go?
She was anti-religious. She was
Okay.
far
So
to the left, and she, just it was against her principles.
Yeah, I hear. It's interesting that it's
Okay, let me ask you something. This lady who came in with all her Rolex watches or whatever it is and the high heels, you knew who she was or not?
Yes.
Oh, you did know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, if you didn't know who she was, it could be somebody who also went through this. But if you knew who she was, then I guess you knew that she did not go through
Not
this.
only did I know who she was, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Nicole Halev, I give it to her. Why not? She just didn't know. Nicole Halev, I want her to have only the best, but she was very young. She had 3 or 4 children. They looked beautiful. Her husband was you never know what's going on inside, that's for sure. She had 2 parents who were helpful. It's not, somebody I don't know. She could be an orphan herself. She could be this, she could be that. No, but I just remember, it's not even important, that Rav Pesach Kron said he gave a thing, that you keep the page in a book from paper, and on the other side, well, he gave it as a pirsomet for himself with the name Rav Pesach Kron, but on the other side was written all what you have to do, that you don't have to be shy to go, that you can keep quiet because it takes away some of the pain, that something that people don't know, that it's not only for the person that you visit, but it's for the neshama as well. When you visit, I sometimes go to people that I don't know, and because I knew the person that died, but then I say, but what am I going for? Who am I going to be Menachem? I don't know the other people. It happens. And I knew only the person that passed away. And he says that it has a point to go as well. All kinds of very interesting things. I must have the thing somewhere else even. If I find it one day, I'll read it to you. No, I knew. Okay, anything else? Anything more? I had to if you have, you stop me, you interrupt me with pleasure. A week ago, they called me every half a month, every month they call me for a certain thing like, Kav HaImahot. All of you know what it is. Press on a button and you get a nice story, sometimes better, sometimes not. But, it's nice. It can be 12 o'clock at night. You can hear it later. And since the wars, they do chizuk. Yesterday, they were all over Eretz Israel and in the whole world. Tfilah and Yeshivat Mir brought back that you could hear all the speeches that were given by phone since the beginning of the war, with all the Choshuva women that spoke, and everything was very, very nice. So they have the same thing in French, and every 2-3 weeks they called me and they asked me to speak for 10-15 minutes, and I really was so tired and I didn't know where to begin, and it was urgent, and they wanted me to speak about the Jewish mother. A Jewish mother? What is a Jewish mother? And I won't tell you everything, but it was so close to the Hilulah, the Yahrzeit of Rochel Imeinu, that I thought I can't say no, because I can compare it with Rochel Imeinu. As we said, that it's interesting that she's called a mother because she has so many things that she teaches. And they always say that part of Bina Yetera Nitna Lenashim is as well that a woman has, the whole Yahrzeit is based on this, has a vision. It goes further. And I think I said to somebody that we have 4 times altogether, but we have 3 times which are connected. The word Vayemaen. Yaakov Avinu, Rochel Imeinu, and Yosef HaTzadik. Okay, so Vayemaen Yaakov, he refused to be consoled. 22 years he davened. He has no idea where his davening goes. But one thing, he's not giving up. He's not giving up. And you have Rachel, who is not stopping to cry. And the famous Rav Chaim Shulevich, who used to be a fantastic, interesting person, that he would speak directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And people who saw it told me that he would be in Mir the whole night, trying to understand a part of the Gemara. And when he finally, in the early morning, would get it, he would look up towards Shamayim, he would look up towards the ceiling and say, thank you, Adank, thank you, as if Hashem put it in his mind, as if he's speaking directly to Hashem. And he used to go to Kever Rachel and say, don't be consoled, continue crying. Hashem should know that it's not over, that the galut has to stop, etc., etc. And then we have Yosef, Vayima'en with Mrs. Potiphar, and suddenly it comes together that the Vayima'en of Yaakov is such a strong tefillah that this is what gave the koach to Yosef to have the kedusha in that terrible place. And I just heard today in the name of Rabbeinu Bachayet that all those parashiot of Avram Avinu till Yaakov, that when it says Lech Lecha, Rabbeinu Bachayet says that Lech Lecha comes from lichluch, dirt. I had never heard it before. It's very interesting. And it says Lech Lecha, Kodesh Baruch Hu is telling him, get out of the dirt, because because the influence of a bad place. We once had on the Monday morning SHIUR, Shira Smiles, who Brenda helped write her book, from what I understand, and she wrote on the Birkot HaShachar, and he says, and one place she says that you shouldn't. And she says there, don't daven for good kids, daven that they should have good friends. That's the most important. This sentence, which I know, but it's good to rehear it, to reread it, help people who choose a school for their children to look more at the chevra than at the height of the limudim. Because the limudim, you can always, once I went to Rav Scheinberg years and years and years ago, before he was mishpocha with me, and I said, I'm worried, I come from Chutz La'aretz, the children, the boys stop learning Chol at the age of 12, there is a limit. I mean, everywhere in the world you finish high school, even on a low level, but a little bit you have to know now, north, south, east, west, something you have to know about the world. And he told me, don't worry, the Girse, the Yankuse, the learning, what remains, what you put into yourself is the Kodesh, and the rest you can learn in seconds. When you're older, you learn what you learn from Kita Aleph to Kita Tet, you learn in 3 months when you're older, and that's not important. You just need it for parnasa. Yeah,
that I know, because I have a grandson who's 32 at Neve Esrim, and he decided it's time to go to work, and he did not know more. He didn't know more than fractions. Nothing, no A plus B plus nothing. What's A and B? Nothing. And he's studying engineering. And the first year he had to do mechina in mathematics to be able to understand what all this is. And Baruch Hashem, and he did very well. And they all, I don't know how many Charedim there are in his group, but none of them knew more than that, because that's what they learn in the Cheder till Shvarim. And so you, like you say, and Torah that he has is that he has.
That you learn in your youth, you keep with yourself. Nachon. It's hard to understand. It's hard. Not everybody has a possibility to at 32 begin going to school, because some people have to work hard and they don't have that. It's not so simple. It's not black and white. But no question. She writes there that in the name of some Meforesh, that daven for a good surrounding more than for anything else, right? So going back to Yaakov davens for Yosef, and Vayima'en, the famous, he gives a koach to Yosef. Where does it all come from? Yaakov is not the only one. Yaakov has a wife called Rachel. He doesn't have her for long, but he has Rachel, who has, of course, hashpa'ah on her husband. And a woman, I once heard a beautiful thing, that's how I began this year, that men have a chiyuv to learn Schatz. What is the Schatz of a woman? The Schatz of a woman is Shin Samach. Shin is Simcha, and Samach is Savlanut. And savlanut is not just to have patience, if it takes him long to learn to read, you have savlanut. Savlanut is much deeper. Savlanut is a capacity to wait to see the result. And the midrashim about Kriyat Yam Suf and about so many things, the women before going through Yam Suf, they don't know how long it's going to take. They take a bottle of grape juice, they take a few chales, they take a few diapers, they prepare themselves. So many times a woman knows that it might take time. It might take till the end of Galut. They have the savlanut, they have the vision to understand that it's all for a purpose, that it goes somewhere. And this is Rochel Imeinu. At the moment when Rochel Imeinu is giving the simonim to her sister, this Rochel Imeinu understands that the end doesn't justify the means. She loves Yaakov, she wants Yaakov, this, that, but for Klal Yisrael, so that Klal Yisrael should get till the end of times, when Mashiach comes, she has to do what she's doing, because if not, she's going to put her sister to shame. And the end doesn't justify the means. If it's through a chet, you don't do it. And this she gave over to Yaakov Avinu, she gave it over to Yosef. Besides the fact that we have the famous shtika of Rachel. When we speak Rachel, we speak about vatranut and shtika. And shtika, and it goes together, vatranut and shtika, very much. I don't want to speak a long time about this, but it's extremely interesting because shtika is the lo ta'aseh. I don't like to say negative. The lo ta'aseh of things. So many times you do more by not saying, by not doing, by not creating the fight, by not doing. And this is Rochel Imeinu, and she's so strong that she gave it over to Binyamin, who didn't say, to Shaul HaMelech, who didn't say, to Esther HaMalka, lo higida Esther et Amav et Moladeta v'chule v'chule. Why? Because they foresee that one can wait, and things. You're not OCD. You wait. This is the summer of. Why is a woman having savlanut, meaning saval, sovel, the pangs of birth? Because she knows that it's in order to have a child, in order to have a beautiful end to the story. Of course, there are tragedies in this world, but that's not what I'm talking about. All this is Rochel Imeinu. What does it have to do with Cheshvan? Cheshvan is a month of not doing. Cheshvan is a month, we spoke about it in length, of no chag. Mar Cheshvan is not Mar. Mar is transformed into Ram. If you interiorate, if you put inside, if you're mafnim, pnimi, what you learned in and what you did and all the fantastic feelings and everything of Tishrei, you don't run to the world so to do your things in order to forget everything of Tishrei, but you spend a month thinking about it and trying to put it in depth, pnimi. This is Rochel Imeinu. One doesn't hear a lot. Metushelach is born as well on Yud Aleph Cheshvan. What do we know about Metushelach? That he's the person that lived the longest time, 963 years. But Metushelach, we know nothing about him. No, he was good. He was good because it doesn't have to be with noise. These are the people that are the real Lam. Nobody knows who the Lamed Vav are. So this is the same. Cheshvan is a month that you don't go weiter, that you don't do more, that you don't have more chagim, that you don't. Sometimes people don't understand. They want to give their children everything. And the child doesn't have time to appreciate the one thing that he got. Put time in between things. Is it clear? And we spoke about it. We spoke about Cheshvan. So that's a connection between, one of the connections between Rochel Imeinu and as well Cheshvan. So I find it very, very moving. And that's why Mina Shamayim, this week, somebody took me late at night, at 11:30 at night, to Zvil. I went 10 years ago, but I don't usually go to Zvil. Same idea. Zvil is the rabbi in Zvil, and there are a lot of Yeshuot. And the person wanted very much to go because they have one out of their numerous children that suddenly is going off, dresses like a kid of the street, and really we don't understand why. Suddenly. So she went and she tried to register him. The other children are in the best schools and they are the best children, blah, blah, blah. And this child, 14 years old, is going around with kids that are drugged. Suddenly, nobody understands. Perhaps he wasn't the best in school. Yeshivas don't always know how to, but nobody knows. So she went to the Rabbi Mizvil, and she registered her child to a very good yeshiva for such kind of kids. The Rosh Yeshiva is unreachable, but B'Nes, B'Protectia, they accepted the child, but the child doesn't want to go. At 14, you can't force. He wants to go to another yeshiva, which according to them, I don't know the details, is not good, and he's not in Yerushalayim, and he's not far, and he's far, and you won't see what's going on with the child. And that Rosh Yeshiva of the good place, they try to reach him so many times, they don't reach him. They just know through the secretary that he is accepted, but it doesn't help. So we went to the Rabbi Mizvil, we go back to the car, and she gets a phone call of that rabbi who is unreachable, straight from the story, from coming out of the kever, the madrigot. We are not yet in the car, that he wants to speak to her because he's reaching the child and he's convincing him. You know what? Segulot, I'm not a segula person, but I saw it with my eyes this Sunday night. It's interesting. The rabbi, which they're trying to reach for weeks, calls them. He doesn't call the people, he waits to be called. He calls the people. The Rabbi Mizvil in Shamayim was spoiled that he called them. It's interesting. So it's like your story, Brina, of that woman who began, I suppose, I hope, believing more in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Rabbonim are not doing it, but they're poil in Shamayim, they're davening in Shamayim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should do it for you. It's interesting. Okay. All this because it's a cover to speak about Rochel Imeinu, like it's a cover to eulogize people on the day of the Yahrzeit. Okay? Now, where were we up to? Was it last week that we had this crazy electric that it stopped? Nachon.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I want to say another thing. We are not in school, so it doesn't matter. You know that this week the Haftorah is beautiful. The coming week, Vayera, the Haftorah is fantastic. And we had an evening with hundreds and hundreds, 600 or 700 women of Bnei Torah, and Rav Zilberstein, the son-in-law originally of Rav Eliashiv, spoke about women, about the power of women. And who did he speak about? He spoke about somebody that we speak very little. And it's this week's Parsha. It's a woman who was a wife of Ovadia Hanavi. You remember the story? Huh? It's in Melochim. And the wife, and it's interesting, he didn't speak about Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, but on the day of the Yahrzeit of Rochel Imeinu, we can speak about special women. And he insisted on the fact that it's a very tzanua woman that almost nobody knows, but the story happens, and she was worthy of unbelievable things. The wife of Achav, the king who is full of problems, he's doing avodah zarah. He's a king of Israel, and he married Izebel, who is the daughter of a king of the enemies. And you know, they used to do things. It's very hard to understand because she wasn't Jewish. Okay, so he converted her, but look what she does. She takes the Nevi'im, and as soon as a Navi is next to her, she kills him. So there is a man who is a big tzaddik. He's a ger tzedek, and he's a big tzaddik. You know, a lot of the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Torah Shebe'al Peh, is standing on gerim. Rabbi Meir. Every time it doesn't say who it is, it's Rabbi Meir. Who does he marry? The daughter of one of the Aseret Harugei Malchut, Gdoile Olam, who died as a kapora for the whole of Klal Israel. And so she marries a descendant of Geret Tzedek. And Rabbi Akiva even as well is a descendant of, and who is Rabbi Akiva? Moshe Rabbeinu said the Torah should have been given by him. It's very interesting. With everything, it's very, very interesting. Baruch doesn't look at those things. Doesn't mean that everybody should now begin marrying off their children with gerim. Perhaps it's not the same gerim as then, but those people So the man is called Ovadia. He's very rich, and he decides to save by hiding the Nevi'im, which Izebel wants to kill. And that's where we hear. And he looks in the Torah to know how to do it. And he learns from the Torah that you don't put all the Nevi'im in one place. You at least put them in two places. Because when you have money, a lot of money, you don't hide it in one place, at least in two places. Because והיה אם יבוא עשיו אל המחנה האחד ויקחו, והיה המחנה השנייה לפליטה. Meaning that he learns from the Torah that Yaakov Avinu divided the camp, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when there are tragedies happening, so part of Am Yisrael is in Eretz Yisrael and part is in America, or part is in Europe and part is in Eretz Yisrael, etc., etc. You don't put your, I don't know, there is a proverb, you don't put your things in one place only. There is
you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't.
Yeah, something like exactly.
That's a saying in English, yeah.
That's what it means. So that's just what we learn. Anyway, but he gives so much money that in the end he's poor. And his wife is such a tzaddiket that she lets him give everything that is in the house, including her jewelry, everything she got. But it's still not enough to feed them for a long time. So it's unbelievable, the message, because, you know, there are people who don't have what to eat now in the north, in the south, no parnosa, no nothing. Are we moving enough? Are we doing enough? Because tzedakah tatzil mimavet. You know, we hear it, we learn it. I don't know. I don't know how far to go. He went very, very far. And at some point, he had given everything, including the vessels, like whatever he has in the kitchen, the vessels that he has at home. And it makes him so sick that he still has debts, because Yehoram, the son of Achav, with Rochel as well. When he doesn't have money anymore, what does he do? He borrows. He's working for the king. He's one of the people that works for the king. Not Avodah Zarah, but he works for the king. And he borrows from the house of the king money. Yehoram, the son of the king, with Rochel as well, demands the money, and he can't pay. He can't pay. So it makes him so sick that he gets sick and he's about to die. And his wife says, how will I manage on my own? You didn't pay your debts. We know that it's for a mitzvah. And he says, Hashem doesn't abandon you. You have a prophet in your time. Akol yistader. And he dies. And they come to the house, Yoram, and she trembles. And he checks the house, and he finds nothing. Can't believe it, but he finds nothing anymore. So he sees the two beautiful children, and he says, okay, I'll take them as slaves if you don't pay me by a few days. I'll take them as slaves. And like it says in the Torah, that sometimes somebody is taken to give back the money that he stole. But here it's a tragedy, because he takes them for slaves in a bad environment and everything. So she goes to the kever of her husband, and there is a Zohar and there is a Medrash that they ask her, who do you come to? And she says, it says by Abraham, by Yitzchak, by Yaakov, by a few people, and by Ovadia, that they were Eved Hashem Mamash. And she says, I come for Ovadia. And there are a lot of midrashim on the subject. And the answer is, go to the Navi, a voice from heaven, the bat call or whatever. Go to the Navi, he'll tell you what to do. The Navi says he can't help her. But suddenly he stops and he says, no, you know what? What do you have in the house? And she says, nothing. And he says, think twice. She says, I have one bottle of oil where there is a remnant of about an inch of oil. Now, what's the story of the oil? And the minhag that we have to leave a little bit of bread on the table when we bench comes from here. Meaning that a broche has to be chal on something existing. You don't take somebody who has nothing going for him, which is very rare, and give him a broche. You first awaken in him something. A broche is ribui. It's giving more of something that is there. So he tells her, by tomorrow morning, I'll tell you what to do, and get all the vessels that you come from your neighbors. We said before that they sold all their vessels. So they had nothing left. That's why she has to go to the neighbor. There is another pshat, which is very interesting. I think it's Radak, I don't remember, which says that it's very, very interesting that on one hand, she's going to close the door. The Novi is going to tell her to close the door because one doesn't like to make a miracle in front of everybody. But on the other hand, if she takes vessels from the neighbors, after the fact, she'll be able to say that she had a miracle and all the vessels got full. And the neighbors won't say, where did she get the money from? Suddenly, she was such a poor woman. We gave her a little bit of tzedakah. So what's going on? And it won't, she will remain clean because she has asked from all the neighbors. So they realize that it was in order that they should get filled. And from here we have a pasuk in Mishle, which we read in, which we daven in benching. The nimtza chen v'sechel tov b'nei Elokim v'adam. What does it mean? The Chofetz Chaim explains that once the Chofetz Chaim had davened at a different minyan every day, he crossed the street to tell his students whom he met that he had already davened. What? First of all, they don't think anything. Second of all, the thing is done. The Chofetz Chaim is not davening. Not only in Elokim, but Adam as well. Don't let the person, don't behave in a strange way, so that, you know, there are stories about people who were nistar and everything. So it's Hasidic story, Bevakasha, I don't have an answer. But don't do things which look like you're not from, or that look like you're doing strange things, because then when the people think bad about you, you are partly responsible. That's the pshat. So she took kelim from everybody so that later on she can tell you the kelim got filled. And as long as you don't stop pouring from the bottle, the brocha will not stop. And then she asked the Netzer whether she should, the next day a ness happens, that oil goes up tremendously. Sometimes we have the opposite in life. You sell a dira, and the day after, when you want to buy another dira, it went up by double. So it's not pashut. But in here, when the oil goes up, hakol bishvila ki kazut tzadeket, and she asked the Novi if she should wait longer, and he says no, you don't have to do extra hishtadlus. Parnasa min hashamayim. With this oil, you will have enough for you and for your children and for your descendants. Why did she get such a mess happening to her? Because her husband was davening in Shamayim. That's mainly because tzedakah and hachnasat orchim are huge mitzvot. Avraham Avinu is at the entrance of his tent, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to visit him, and at some point he sees three Arabushim on the way, and he wants so much guests that he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sorry, I'm busy, I'll call you back later. To HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yoter hachnasat orchim mikabalat pnei hashchina. Now, it doesn't mean if you're in the middle of Shmona Esrei and somebody calls that you have to answer the call. That's not what it means. But it means that people that do a lot of hachnasat orchim are worthy of miracles. It's a beautiful story. And for Sfardim, that's the Haftorah. For Ashkenazim, there is another story, the story of Shunam. And until today, Rav Chaim Kanievsky used to go to Shunam, which is amongst the Arabs. Today we wouldn't go, but he used to go with the whole crowd to daven at the kever that they think from the time of, I think Rav Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal, this had Ruach HaKodesh to know which kever is what, and he would daven for people that don't have children, because a woman of Shunam didn't have children, received the same prophet Elisha marvelously, and they made specially an attic for him, and she discovered that he's a tzaddik because no fly ever came close to him, which is a very interesting idea as well. And when the Novi asks her, this is one of the famous stories, so all of those famous things that you know are in this Haftorah, that's why I say that sometimes at some point the Navi asks her, what would she like? What would she want? She says, I need nothing. You know, like Yaakov Avinu, Yeshli Kol. She has enough. She doesn't have any demands. But the Gehazi, who is not a good person, but who is the servant of the prophet Elisha, tells his master, I think that, you know, they don't have children and they're already older. So the Navi is going to daven for her that she should have a child. But it's a very interesting story. The Gaon Mivilna was proposed an angel that would teach him the whole Torah. He doesn't want. he wants to do it with pain, with having to learn day and night. He doesn't want it should be given to him as a present. The woman is very afraid of such a nest. She senses something. And the prophet promises her that it's nothing, that she'll have a child. And does she want him to daven for her? And that's a famous sentence that she answered, no, I don't want you to daven specifically for me. Betoch ami ani yoshevet, the famous sentence that everybody knows. Betoch ami ani yoshevet, I want to be part of the whole. Because when you scrutinize a person, you're bound to find something. And that she doesn't want. This is a chidush of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The Vakorot Roedro, we say in Unetane Tokef that we're passing one by one. We can't hide behind our parents, our mother's skirt. We can't hide. It's like the sheep. We go one by one. You suddenly can't bluff at all. It's very frightening. So she says, Betoch ami ani yoshevet. Lemaise, her chushim were right. She gets the child a year later. Why? Because the woman of Shunam did unbelievable hachnasat orchim to the prophet. There are many, many stories of people that want to be sure that they will be forgiven, their sins will go to Gan Eden. So they look for a very big hachnasat orchim, and they look for somebody that is in the street and that has nowhere to go, and they take him in. Not just in the story of All for the Boss, where he had people living by him for a long time, but the Brisker Rov, who is known for his chokhmah, they say that he was hiding his chesed behind his chokhmah. And the Chofetz Chaim was hiding his chokhmah behind his chesed. Listen well. Chofetz Chaim, everybody speaks about his chesed, Nu Ahavat Chesed, the book and everything, but he wasn't less a chochem than the Brisker Rov. He wasn't the Poshut Yid. And the Brisker Rov was unbelievable chesed. And one only speaks about how he taught the whole door to learn better and to learn very sharp and everything. But he was kulo chesed. He wasn't using his religion to not do things or anything. These are shlemes digger people who are shalem.
I think I read once that girls or ladies that had children that they didn't want for whatever other reasons they didn't have would put the baby on the doorstep by Reb Chaim. They would leave the baby, leave the baby, and they knew that Reb Chaim would see that they're taken care of. The babies.
That he finds who can have it.
I mean, yeah.
There is a very famous story of beggars because his house was hefker. So there is a very famous story that a man doesn't know who he is and sees him in the house and says, I'm already here a week. Do you have any idea how long the Balabait keeps us here? How long can I stay and I have to look for another place and go wandering from place to place? And the Brisker Rov, who doesn't reveal that he's the Balabait, he says, I have no idea, but I'm here already for a few years. A very, very famous story. Okay, and it's a Brisker Rov himself, whatever. But this is not a joke. Last week, I felt so bad because I can give a beautiful shiur and do nothing about it. But an hour and a half before Shabbos in Givat Zeva Chadasha, because behind it's like the desert and bushes, and it burns very easily. You know, we learned about the burning bush and everything.
Yes.
And one house totally went into fire, and the Mechabe Esh came, and the fire, whatever how you call it, they came and they threw the family out of the house. They said, you have to go out of the house. This is an hour and a half before Shabbos, when the cholent is cooking, when the children didn't have a shower yet. When? I have no idea what's the end of the story, but the people were thrown out of their house. I mean, close to Shabbos, on a Friday afternoon, choose the time. You know? So theoretically, there should have been hundreds of people wanting to do the mitzvah because tzedakah tatzil mimavet. I don't know what happened, but I don't live in Givat Ze'ev. I would have perhaps said they can come for a meal or something like I did very often. And I'm here and I'm doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like, we have to not just hear the stories, we have to move. I don't know. We are in special times. We read the stories about the war, the World Wars II, and all kinds of things. And we say, how could people continue living normal? So this Haftarah is very, very moving. And the Maise, it's full of Zohar, this chapter. She refuses to have Gehazi trying to revive the child. And then the child, of course, at 6 years old or whatever, goes to the field, doesn't feel well, he has a sunstroke, and he dies. And Gehazi, And the Navi doesn't know about it. The Navi doesn't know about it. And Chazal asked, why did Hashem do such a thing that the Navi doesn't know about it? Because the Navi said to the woman, in a year you'll have a child, because you did so much good to me that in a year you'll have, and he didn't ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He felt secure enough, sure that Hashem will do it for him. But it's a bit of gaiva, 1 point of gaiva. So Hashem punishes him by not letting him know he's a Navi, that she's going to have a child. Wow. He says, in a year you'll have a child, but then when she has a child, Baruch Hashem, and then when the child dies, the Navi knows nothing about it. She sends a message that the child died, and the Navi sends Gehazi to with a piece of wood to revive the child, on the condition that he keeps it a secret. Again, we have to know when yes to say a nes and when not. Very often when somebody has a nes, the reason why he says it, because it's a certain guy, but you know what happened to me? I had a nes, like Hashem likes me so much that I had a nes. Oy vavoy. Sometimes you have to keep quiet about it, and sometimes when it's a Kiddush Hashem, a hashgocha, special hashgochas, then there is an Indian to say. Very complicated. All these things, there are halachas about all this. So it doesn't help, of course, and she runs to the Navi with her donkey and everything, and she says, the child died. I told you that I'm not sure he's going to live. The reason why Gehazi didn't succeed at all is because he said it while the Navi told him that it's a secret. Elisha is going to revive the child. And the way he davens to Hashem, like my master Eliyahu could do it, I beg you, Hashem, to do it. I promised the woman I do it. By Eliyahu Navi, I looked what is the argument that the Navi said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because he says, like you did it to my master, please do it to me. And the beautiful, beautiful answer, which most commentaries speak, the Navi says, Eliyahu Navi says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I have to revive this child because as Hakora Satov. The woman was nice to me as Hakora Satov. Yehudim Hakarat Hatov. Yehudim is we have to do Hakarat Hatov. I couldn't stop saying it because it's such an interesting haftorah. You know, we have also haftarot of Yeshayahu, Yecheskel, and all these things. Of course, they are marvelous, but it's Musar, and it's not this haftorah more than that haftorah. What is the connection between Parashat Vayera, which we are going to have this week, and all these haftorah, which is a woman of Shunam and the woman this, because these are women who transform the world. One is Sarah Imeinu, who didn't have children, and one is the wife of Ovadia, and she was giving everything to save, in a question of life and death, to save the Nevi'im that Izebel wanted to kill. And we have, and one of them is Rochel Imeinu. So it's beautiful when it falls in the same week as the Hilulah, the Yahrzeit of Rochel Imeinu, because this is a list of women who deserve such nisim. And Rachel is going to die at the birth of Binyamin, Ben Oni. But at the same time, Binyamin is going to be the Hemshech of Klal Israel, because we can't have 11 tribes. We have to have 12 tribes. When the brothers are not found by Yosef, Yosef is looking for the brothers, and he is going to Dotan. His father sent to his brothers. He knows it's dangerous, but Kibud Orim he goes. And he doesn't find them. And he finds an Ish. And we know that the Ish, says Rashi, is not an Ish, but it's a Malach. Sometimes a Malach is an Ish, sometimes an Ish is a Malach in the Perushim. And who is a Malach? Gabriel. And he's asking, where are my brothers? Nasu mizeh. And why isn't it written Nasu mipo? Says the Balaturim. Because the gematria of Zeh is 12. Nasu mizeh. They went away from 12. They thought that they can manage without 11 tribes, without one tribe. Am Yisrael has to be whole. Without the whole, Vayichan Sham Yisrael, Belev Echad, everything, it's one. You understand? So it has to be the 12 tribes together. It's very, very interesting, and it's a big hope for the future. Okay? So I just wanted to connect everything, Rochel Imeinu, with Sarah Imeinu, with all these things that fit together. Those women are supposed to be our inspiration, to give up, to be mevater, to keep quiet. It's a secret of everything, and no question that it's a secret of a home, of a bite. Last week we spoke about the scorpion, didn't we? We said that the mazal of the month of Cheshvan is, that wasn't last week, it was a week before, I don't remember, it was for Cheshvan. The mazal of Cheshvan is a scorpion, okay? We spoke about it. And we have Akrav is Akar if we don't succeed, and Ikar if we succeed. And Rachel is Akara, but she's as well Akeret Habayit. Every time it goes together. Those Middot are the key to a house where there will be a bet, which is a bite, which is a vessel that keeps it all together. The bite is what keeps everything together. Without a bite, it's like going to a supermarket and not having a bag to put it in. It's not having an agala, which is a nasim. You need a nasim that brings as well agalot for all the presents to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, so with this I finished, and I wanted to spend 10 minutes on it, and of course I spent much more. So we will continue next week with, I'll go over a little bit in order that it should be a little bit deeper to what last week wasn't such a success, because we had this terrible, it wasn't only by me, it was a lot of people told me that all their plans went down the drain because